Up. Terry Murphy, Peter Tallman, and Councilor Mike Sullivan are here in the council chambers. And online, I see Juan Anderson Burgos. And Linda Vacon is here too. We are going to start the meeting.
Hello, Ms. Brunel.
Hello.
Hi, this is Councilor Anderson Burgos. Thank you for inviting us tonight. I just wanted to let you know that I think the microphone is having issues. There's not a delay or anything, but it just sounds very low, and then it goes up high, and then it goes low again. Just that bit of information for viewers who might be watching from home.
Okay, I can try to switch this microphone to another one, perhaps.
No, it sounds fine now.
Oh, no.
It had issues at the beginning.
adjusting it
sounds
in there.
fine now.
I think he's adjusting it.
Oh, it's back down again.
Is it off? You took it off. There you go.
I'll just keep looking for the
Perfect.
green light.
There you go.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yes, you're welcome. All right. Welcome to the tax classification hearing. Each year, assessors must set values on real estate and personal property. This is done by verifying and inspecting all sales and property transfers and inspecting building permits. Sales analysis studies are performed to calculate the increase or decrease of values. Adjustments are made based on level of assessment in each class of property, thus increasing or decreasing the values accordingly. This year, we've seen an increase in sales value, both on number of sales and sale price. Our residential values have had a steady increase in the past few years, and again this year. Fiscal year 2022 increases to residential property in each category are as follows. Single family, 5.7%. Two family, 15.8%. Three family, 13%. Condos, 12.4%. And apartments, 8.7%. We did see a slight decrease in the value of mixed-use property and land. This calculates to an overall increase in residential value at 7.8%. Commercial properties are down 3.3% based on the declining value of the Holyoke Mall. However, saving us from more of a decline was the addition of value we added from marijuana facilities in the city. We should expect to see an increase in the commercial values from marijuana facilities again next year. Industrial also had a slight increase, and personal property increased 4.2%. This balances out to a total increase in value of 5.3% to equal just over $122 million in the city, with the majority coming from the residential class for a change. Computation of the levy has our limit at $59,911,749. The budget is coming in lower than the limit at $58,997,450. Excess capacity of the levy is about $900,000. Using the entire levy limit would allow us to collect more than needed and would increase tax rates. If we do not have to use the entire amount, it allows us to have a lower overall tax rate. Past years have had our single tax rate at $25 per thousand. This is the first time in many years that our single tax rate has been below $25. The single rate with no shift of values would be $24.35 per thousand. The minimum residential factors are calculated using the $58,997,450,000. We have provided the copies of the factors for you to review to help you decide on a factor and the percentage of the shift from residential to commercial, industrial, and personal property. If the minimum residential factors change for any reason prior to settling on the shift, I will get the new information to you immediately. And I'm going to welcome Joe McGivern to the meeting. And our councilor-elect Kevin Jourdain has showed up as well. Thank you very much. Online is Todd McGee, David Bartley, and Juan Burgos. Does anybody have any questions?
Nobody else on the list.
Okay. Kevin Jordan, go ahead.
No, thank you, Deb. Appreciate you guys doing this. I know it's statutorily required, but they're always very informative. I wanted to ask a question regarding the levy itself. Could you tell me what the FY21 levy is and what the proposed FY22 levy is?
It is in the packet.
Okay.
I will have to refer to that. Our 21 levy limit was 57,528,165.
Okay, and the proposed that your calculations are based upon?
Our 22 limit is 59,911,749.
So is it fair to say that's a difference of 2.4 million approximately?
Yes, it is.
Okay. So, what was the new growth, difference year over year? Or let me back up and just say, for FY22, what is the new growth?
New growth is 932,000.
Okay. So obviously we've had a change of administrations. And my question goes basically, are these new numbers reviewed and approved by Mayor Garcia?
They're approved by the DOR.
No, but the mayor has to set what the levy is. He can determine how he wants to set it based on whatever allocations he wants to make.
That is correct.
Okay.
He can't do that, and we have given him this information, and it will be up to him. I'm still working with Tanya, too. She is still working on issues, and as I understand it, you all have to make a vote to approve some funds from the American Recovery Act to balance the budget.
Oh, that's,
It's all done. I thought Tanya told me you had to approve it
I
on
think the council
Tuesday
has to
night at the
approve it.
council.
yeah,
No, it's, we have to do a correction vote on Tuesday night
Okay,
to catch up to speed. We've discussed it.
okay.
The actual vote has not taken place.
That is what she told me. It will take place on Tuesday, she said.
yeah. I had heard that too, Deb, that I think the ARPA money, the 1.7 million had to be appropriated.
Right,
I think it's been earmarked, but I don't know if it's been allocated to the budget yet.
that's correct.
Yeah,
And then the mayor would have to make the decision whether to use the whole levy or
right.
what he wants to do. But we have based this on just what is needed for now, and that's why I've stated if it changes, I'm gonna get those out to you right away. We wanted to demonstrate to you, or rather, I wanted to demonstrate to you that we're growing, we're doing pretty good, and to have our tax rate under 25 is something that hasn't been done in a long time.
Right.
Debbie,
Yes, Linda?
do you mind repeating the levy that is needed? I believe you said 58 something?
Yes, 58,997,450.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
And that's to balance the budget.
Right.
Yep,
Okay.
And that leaves us at the 2435 rate average?
yes, it does.
Thank you.
I'm not familiar with this. Does that mean someone wants to talk?
Is there a hand up?
Is there a yellow hand up above?
No, there's not. I'm just looking at the
Look
green
look at the
phone.
pictures. I can't see from here. If someone wants to speak, they can put a hand up.
Yeah, there's no hand showing here.
But it is a public hearing.
Yes, it is.
Public, somebody in the,
Yes, we have Donnie Welsh is here. Hello.
I think you have to pull
The
the
button
button
up
forward.
Might be a button on
The
the,
microphone is yours.
There we
there you
go.
go.
Donald Welch, 11 Arbor Way, Holyoke, Mass. I'm just listening to these good numbers, but I'm asking the council not to raise the tax rate particularly for the residential, especially with the values gone up the way they have. So even if you don't raise the tax rate, our taxes that we pay are going to go up because the values went up. I live in a condominium and they went up 12%. That's quite a bit. Especially for people like myself who are on a fixed income, especially with the way inflation has gone skyrocketing. I get Social Security also, but I'm going to get a 6% raise, which would amount to probably $30 a month. 21 of that is going to go to Medicare. Last week, I filled my car up with gas, $48. A few months ago, it was like $32, $33. There goes that plus. It's just the burdens on the homeowners, as you just stated, and businesses too, but the homeowners pay the majority of the taxes for the city. And I would ask the city council when they vote on this to leave it the same or even go down, and maybe this administration can turn around and rein in some of the waste that might be spending. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Does anyone else have any questions? Peter?
Yes, Deb, on the two-family homes at Class 104, I noticed, and I've talked to some people that said they've seen a big increase in two-family homes. From 20 to 21, it went up like 13,000, the average value, but from 21 to 22, it's almost 30,000. Is there a reason for that? I'm just wondering why.
It's the market.
It's based on the sales? Or?
Yes, it is, and it's based on valid arm's length sales. Any sales that include something that might make it not an arm's length sale are coded out and not counted towards the increase in values or towards the sales increase in ratios.
Yeah, because that's a big.
Yeah, it's a huge increase.
And I'm thinking of people, I've talked to some people that own two-family homes. I mean, they have their own home, but they're renting, and they have a couple of them, and it's a substantial increase in their taxes, of course, because of the increase. And then depending on how we set the rate, it's going to, hit some people pretty hard. So I was just wondering why it went up so much. And I know all values pretty much went up in the city, single-family homes too. But I just noticed that stood out a bit.
It did. They all stand out.
Yeah.
All the residential property has increased significantly, not only the past 2 years, but especially this year. And we are looking at an increase again next year. This year's values are based off of sales calculations from 2020. So in 2021, you've all seen the papers and the news, the values were still very high. They are starting to trend downward this last 2 months of the year, so we don't know what's coming next year, but in sales, but we do know the values will be up there still next year.
Right. Well, one other quick question. I know you mentioned the increase in the revenue for the marijuana growing companies and the mall. Now, as a mall, I know the previous year they sort of got not a discount, but a different valuation and paid less.
They did, based on
their business.
Based on the condition of the mall, based on the business. They did sell off some of their properties they had, so that took away from their value, but that did transfer to someone else, which was good. But it did lower the mall's value.
How did that go this year compared to last year? I mean, this new fiscal year coming, did they go down quite a bit again on their assessment, or?
They did.
They did.
They did.
Oh,
They did quite a bit,
Could you
yes.
tell us how much?
yeah. Approximately, yeah.
I believe they went down 30 to 35.
Million?
Yeah, yeah. You've all been through the mall, and you
yeah.
can see the change from a couple years ago.
Right.
And the retail industry's dying.
it's changed.
They're having a hard time. It's hard to compete with Amazon, COVID restrictions, staying home. They were very hard hit.
Yeah, it's a concern there is, we want them to be strong and strengthen them, because who's got to pay the balance is the rest of the commercial, the rest of the residential, and it's
Correct.
it hits.
They are looking for alternatives to, they've been adding entertainment features to the mall and stuff. Of course, those didn't go well with COVID either.
Right. Yeah, I know one of with the old Sears part of the building, they were going to put the mall in there. We gave them the change in the height of the building, but of course with COVID hit, that all changed, and they're like in a stagnant move with that, and that I'm sure affects them too.
Right. I think even before COVID hit, the retail industry was starting to change the face of it.
Okay, yeah, thank you.
Debbie?
Yes.
If we can go back to the commercial for a bit, if we back them all out, how does the rest of the commercial book of business look?
It looks okay. We've lost a few businesses because of everything going on, but we've gained some in other ways. So we're holding steady there. It hasn't been too bad. I do have the handout in there where we take out the value of the
I
mall.
must have not gotten far enough back in the packet.
Yeah, we do the calculations with commercial industrial, including the mall, and then I did do it taking the mall out, and it does show an increase.
Okay, I'm with
in
you
there.
now.
Yeah.
Debbie,
Joe?
I think we know the story of, well, we all understand that we had a great market for, single-family, two-family homes, residential property for the past few years. And I think we know that the two-family, three-family homes were, for many years, undervalued in terms of almost, without accusing our banking industry of redlining certain neighborhoods in this city where homes were selling at $40,000, $50,000, $60,000, and they were, two-family, three-family with rent coming in. And it was absolutely shameful, I'll stop there, of the market allowing that to happen. And so I think in one sense, the two families are catching up. And that makes our job, because property tax is the worst taxing scheme in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, and we don't get to choose it. The legislature chooses it for us, and because we have to use property tax, it makes our job very difficult to sort this out. And what we eventually want to do is decide if we're going to shift the rate, some from residential to commercial. So understanding commercial this year is not as easy. I think we can see and understand a new growth, of actual new construction.
Mm-hmm.
But when it comes to the millions of dollars that have been poured into the old mills by the marijuana industry and the manufacturing, components, is our assessments of the mills with their new values up to date?
Oh, yes, they are.
Okay.
And we're going to see many more of them as well.
Can you quantify how much of new growth is because of the marijuana industry putting dollars into these old buildings?
No. I do have a list of the marijuana facilities that have come in. There's 9 of them.
Even just a comparison of what the property
Well,
tax
I-
was prior to the,
I did do a calculation. Of these 9, one of them is significantly more. It's a grow facility. But totaling the difference between the old value to the new value, I don't know what the percentage is, but it's about 9 million in value.
that's incredible.
Not tax dollars,
No,
but
value.
in value, 9 million.
That's incredible.
Yes.
Is that all the marijuana properties? This is a really good question Joe's asking here. If we were to aggregate all the marijuana development, at this point, it represents about 9 million in value?
That's correct.
Okay, thank you.
Yes. And as I said, we have 9 current ones, but there's many more in the
There's still
pipeline.
another, I would say at least
Yeah.
another half a dozen in the hopper.
Yeah, the planning
Just knowing what the board's-
board is working very
Yeah.
diligently and has a committee set up to accept these properties.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Debbie, Councilor Graney calling.
Okay, go ahead, Howie.
Yeah, could you put it in layman's terms with all these figures, approximately how much in dollars and cents will this cost the average single-family homeowner
Well,
in tax dollars?
that does depend on,
Approximately.
it does depend on the tax rate set. I do have,
What will be the difference between the tax rate this year and last year?
that depends on what you all select as a shift factor. It could be
If we level
quite
fund.
close, it could be quite close, or it could be farther off. I can tell you the average value of the single-family home this year is $219,470. Last year it was $207,000. So every year they're
Right, so
going up significantly.
If we level fund, if this tax rate is level funded, what would the approximate tax increase be with the increase of evaluation? Just an approximate, that's all I want. So the viewing public will know what they're facing, even if we level fund.
$240. If the tax rate
Hold on.
remained the same and it was just the value, the difference would be 200. It would go, average tax bill would go from $4,005 to $4,245, so it would be $240.
Kevin did the calculation.
Wonderful. Thank you, Kevin. That's what I want to know. That's what the public wants to hear.
Yep.
Thank you.
Thank you, Howie. Any other questions?
Ms. Burnell, it's Rebecca Lisi online.
Hi, Rebecca.
Hi, thanks so much for coming down this evening. I think one of the important things to point out is that the increase that Kevin and Councilor Greenie just asked for is due to an increase in value alone. And so that's actually in some ways a good thing, because it means that people have more equity and liquid assets in their home. So, if people's tax rate is going up because we're setting the rate at the same SIP shift for this coming year, and it goes up, it's because people have more value in their home, and then they're going to pay on that value. But the other
We're aware
thing
of that, Councilor Lisi.
Great, okay. The other thing that I wanted to mention was that the $9 million in new growth that marijuana represents is only for the 9 companies that are actually operating. And so that just to make it very clear, like, those are the folks that are actually with their doors open, because we are only getting revenue from those businesses that are operating.
That's correct.
We have many more permits in queue, people that have been permitted, and we have many more applications coming through. So to sort of reiterate the point that Councilor McGivern was making, it is quite stunning that with only 9 small shops, of course there is one larger grow facility that's online at the moment, but with 9 relatively small shops, we're bringing in $9 million in new growth.
That is correct.
So it really seems to be, thank you. It seems to be a really great investment and decision that was made long ago to allow these businesses to come in, take over those old industrial mill buildings, and really help to stabilize those buildings and bring in much needed revenue into the city.
Yes,
Debbie?
yes, Linda.
Thank you. Just to clarify, I mean, when we're looking at setting the tax rate, the new growth is the 932,000. The new value with the investments made in those warehouses was the 9 million.
Yes.
That's not 9 million in new growth
No.
for the
No,
tax.
I'm just saying what the value went up on those 9
Right.
marijuana
Right,
facilities.
but I just want to
Right.
make sure we're not mixing
Right,
our,
right. And the majority of that
Understanding
is
here.
from the grow facility.
right. Thank you.
Yes.
What was our new growth last year?
1.1 million.
Yep. It is, it's on the second orange sheet in your packet where it shows the 1,113,000.
Got it.
Debbie, I had some more, if there's nobody else with a question.
Yes, no one else?
When you said that the number for this year for the mall decrease, and again, I don't want to be Debbie Downer here, but, and I think it's great that the marijuana has gone up 9 million. Oh, and
Yep.
that's a good thing, no doubt. But I want to put this all in perspective. If I understand, the mall decrease for this year was 35 million. Okay. And wasn't there an agreement before that it already went down almost 20 million?
It did.
Okay, So I just want everybody to be well aware of what we're talking about here, that the mall has gone down about 55 million, okay? So that's 6 times the total growth of all of marijuana combined. The mall has gone down. So that puts a tremendous budgetary pressure on the community, because what's happening is residential is going up, which is, you know, in one respect is great. We all like to sell our homes for more, but that of course only works for you when you're selling your home, okay? If you're gonna live in your home for many, many years and you're on fixed income, what pays the bill today, okay? I mean, that value doesn't mean anything to you if you've died and gone to heaven, or you're moving to Florida or whatever, until that day happens. If you're living on Social Security today, and I'm still looking, and I think we all represent a community that's got a per capita income that is absolutely the lowest in Massachusetts. So these folks are hurting, and I think what Don, and I think he's well representing his dad, who used to be up at this rail for years saying many of the same things, is it's not keeping pace. And I think what Counselor Tallman points out is absolutely correct. It's staggering and if you look over the 5-year trajectory, two-family homes now will have gone up 40%, 40% in total valuation over that period of time. They will have gone up 20% in just this year alone. Now, assuming we keep the rates stable, and it's hard not to, because the commercial minus the mall actually has gone up, and it's hard to ask the commercial to pay more too, because the average value has gone up. But there's going to have to be some sort of balancing here, because to ask two-family homeowners to pay an extra 20% on their taxes in 1 year, on top of the fact they've already over the prior 4 years giving you 5, 5, 5, 5, 20, and single family was paying a $750 lower bill. If we go up what looks to be, if we kept the rate the same, would be going up $750 per year than what they were paying 4 years ago. That's a lot. And which makes us say, what's the only thing we can do to change the game? And that is, I think the mayor needs to address in some measure the tax levy itself, right? I don't think I think we need to seriously consider, we're at 57.5. If we went up to 59, which we needed to balance the budget, and we took this back $1 million, that would take some of the sting off of this, too, for everybody, commercial and residential. And by the way, I don't think it's unreasonable to expect that the budget, we're building in $1.5 million of new tax revenue from the citizens and the businesses. I think that's reasonable. I mean, how can we expect to grow the tax levy at $2.5 million a year? That's enormous. We're going to tax people to death around here, business and residential, if we're increasing the budget at that pace, okay? We just cannot afford to do that to these folks unless you want to face them with year over year over year of these type of increases. And I've heard the refrain from some, well, it's only $20 a month. And here's again another example of another $20 a month. But this is what some of us have been saying for a while. Well, what about last year's 20 a month? And what about the year before that's 20 a month? And the year before that's 20 a month? You start getting up to it, you're up to $100 a month. That is real money, okay, to many working people in this community. So City Council does not have an easy job. I think Mayor Garcia should seriously consider, having a levy more in that 58.9 range that we need, and then recalculate some of these numbers to take a sting. I don't really think there's too much we really can shift to business. And I know for some, they're going to be surprised I say that, because I've historically been more on the residential side of the aisle, but I really feel that this is a scenario where we're probably looking at rates that could be a little bit lower, but evenly for both sides, and make this $240 increase for residential, and it would be way more than that for the two-family people, and the commercial would not go up too much. Maybe we make this more around $150 increase. Because when we think about other communities, I saw Springfield just set theirs the other day. They took $1 million and put it on their tax levy. By the way, they had $25 million in free cash, by the way. $25 million in 1 year free cash. Now, on a good note, our property values used to be rather symmetrical with Springfield, but I've noticed that our residential values have really taken off now compared to Springfield. There's now a $30,000 gap between the average home value, almost 40,000 gap between Holyoke and Springfield, which is a good thing, but we're still in a very similar socioeconomic grouping with Springfield. And, I'm just saying, for people that are living in their homes and won't be selling their homes, that's a big bite. And in some of these sectors like condos and two families, they've really seen massive increases. And I'm not sure they have the revenue, personal budgets, especially in these difficult times, to afford those kind of increases. So whatever can be done, I think we should consider it this year.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Anybody else? There's Meg Sullivan.
Yeah, thank you. I would also just like to point out that we really don't want to look too much to the cannabis industry for our growth. One of the side effects here of this growth in cannabis has been the forcing of other businesses out of Holyoke. Not all of these businesses have gone into abandoned mills. Ederon now has closed one of their facilities in Holyoke and moved that facility to South Hadley. Hamden Papers closed, sold out, and moved to, I believe, Virginia. And Sonico also closed a plant, which is being converted to marijuana, and moved to North Carolina. So there's been a trade-off here also that we should keep in mind. It's also spurred other companies to leave Holyoke because of the increased value in their real estate and being able to move somewhere else with a lower tax rate. That's it.
Thank you. Joe?
I have a lot more to say, but in respect to our assessor, this is a hearing about the values that your office has determined
Yes.
and been verified and certified by DOR. And I just want to say thank you for sharing the values with us so we understand them. My only question on values or maybe statement is the Holyoke Mall, because it's a thorn in our side. I said earlier, property tax is the worst taxing scheme in the world to deal with. No matter what you do, you're unfair to someone. But providing services is what we do as a community. We need revenue to provide services. We know when we learned over the last couple of years, and it's a trend, that malls across the country are reinventing themselves. The retail is no longer the primary part of what a mall is about. The Holyoke Mall, it looks like they're doing a pretty good job of trying to reinvent themselves, which is maybe different, but different level jobs, but continues to provide jobs and continues to provide not the property tax that we want or need, but does provide something. And more important, it's open. The travesty would be if Pyramid picked up and sold to, and they would not close the mall, but at this time, but they could sell to an inferior owner, operator, and we would lose even more. So we have to live with that. And the Commonwealth of Massachusetts doesn't give us much choice when it comes to property tax. But there's two ways to look at these values, and I think we all know that. The glass is half full if you want to sell your property tomorrow. The glass is half empty when you get your tax bill a week later. But that's the story of life, and we have to balance it. Our next debate will be when we decide if we're going to shift the burden and where we're going to place the burden in terms of residential versus industrial commercial. But I hope, and just based on your values, I hope that, and Kevin made a good point about our per capita income. It's always been, for a long time, been the lowest in the Commonwealth. I hope that some of our efforts to break the poverty cycle through education leading to good jobs is starting to pay off. We still have a long way to go. I hope that these two and three family homes are seeing people who are finding jobs that didn't have a job or finding better jobs and able to afford these homes and also able to enhance their income through rental property. And when we see more of that and we break the poverty cycle, our per capita income will rise and we won't be known as the lowest in the Commonwealth. And that's when we know we will succeed. But to do that, we have to play our part in service. And service could be education, continue with our public safety efforts, DPW for infrastructure and trash. We still are the biggest, I think we're the biggest bargain in trash pickup in the entire state. You know, we're incredible that we're still doing it the way we do it. But those are the good things, because that's also the positive why people want to come to the city of Holyoke. So thank you for sharing these values with us, and thank you for getting them certified in a timely fashion.
Thank you, Joe.
Yeah, one quick comment, Councilor Green.
Yes. Go ahead, Mr. Graney.
Just to reiterate what everybody said tonight, we also want to be careful that we don't tax senior citizens out of their homes, because most of the senior citizens in Holyoke are on fixed incomes. Those that live in single-family homes have a tremendous tax burden to pay, and some of them are going to be forced to sell their homes if these taxes keep going up. So I think that we should be very careful, and we should look out for some of the people who have looked out for us for many, many years. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Councilor Graney.
Debbie?
Anyone else? Linda?
Thank you. And just to summarize, I'm not really saying anything new, but I do hope that our mayor seriously considers limiting the levy and keeping it below the top limit to help get some relief. And tonight, I'm really hearing a strong argument for pretty much keeping the rates the same. It's almost or a little bit lower if we can, by limiting the use of the full taxable amount to give folks some relief. And I too heard a lot of feedback recently relative to fixed incomes and ever increasing taxes. So it seems like we're all sort of seeing the same scenery as we're looking at this year. So it sort of translating into a situation like we have with our redistricting, that not really looking to change anything much, but we're looking to keep things from being too painful. So I appreciate all the comments people have made tonight.
Yes.
And it's good to be on a similar page.
It is.
And thank you for your work on this.
Thank you.
He,
Anyone else?
That's one question. So if we were to stay with the same rates, do we know how much of that 59,991,911 we would actually raise? I mean, if we stayed the same rate,
Well,
I mean, that looks like it's altogether somewhere around 2.4 million, which is close to 5%, so.
right. In the packet of the worksheet scenario that we put together from the state, we only entered the levy at the amount that was needed, the 58,997,450.
Okay.
And this is what the rates come out using that.
This is in the orange sheet?
Yeah, it's behind the red piece of paper.
Okay.
I tried to separate it to make it stand out for you so you could access it quicker.
The levy dictates the rate, the current, the
Yes,
budget, the levy.
it does.
We're
It
halfway
does.
through the fiscal year.
You could use the whole levy, but we have excess levy, so you could just use what's needed. But the shift percentage will decide where your tax rate's gonna land, I
But
believe.
unfortunately, the tax rate staying the same is an increase because of the value increases across the board.
Right, right,
And that's the hard part to deal with.
yeah.
There's another way to balance it and still provide services. The mayor could choose to ask permission to use stabilization dollars like Springfield did to reduce the levy.
You
Right.
could,
But if the mayor did go to the higher levy, then it would be a further increase all around,
that's correct,
a significant one.
yes.
Deb? I had actually another question.
Yes.
And of course, I agree with Councilor McGivern when he makes the point about this property tax system. This just doesn't work for Holyoke. It hasn't worked for many, many years. There's too much need in the community to generate it off of property taxes. I think people need to just be really aware that it's actually a total setup for failure, because the more need a community has, the more concentrated poverty a community has, which generates these needs, causes property values to be lower because average income and average home prices are on average lower. There's also higher crime, there's more challenging schools, there's all of this, which all drive down property values. Yet you need more money to service the need of the community. So it works just the opposite. The property-based system in Massachusetts is really designed for suburban communities. It doesn't work in these city communities. We need massive new infusions of local aid. Our local aid funding formulas simply don't work for the community. We should not be put in this position where you're going to tax the poorest people more in all of Massachusetts. When you look at the rates of affluent communities compared to the rates in this community, our rates are far higher. And that is why we have the highest residential tax burden in this community of every community of the 351 cities and towns in Massachusetts. And by residential tax burden, we mean your income divided by your tax bill, okay? Yes, people in, you go to East Long Meadow, they could have a higher tax bill, but their income is disproportionately far higher, okay? It could be as much as 4 times higher. Well, their property tax bill isn't 4 times higher. So this is the point that many of us are trying to make, that we got to get off this gerbil wheel, because this is going to take the whole town eventually right down. And here's the other thing I want to point out. I've really taken a close look, and Debbie, I think it would be really helpful if your office could provide the council with this information. In the last 10 years, and I'm going to point out a few just in the last couple years, of formerly commercial tax-paying properties that went to exempt, okay?
Yep.
You just had the one over on Hampden Street, was the former Dan O'Connell's offices get acquired by Girls Inc.
That is correct.
$800,000 in value that sold for. Your property tax bill, 0. Okay? That's no longer paying. That hurts. Okay? Now, flash ahead down to Main Street. Big medical office, professional office building across from Providence Hospital, right? ServiceNet goes from being a tenant and the landlord was paying the taxes to, hey, I'll buy the whole building. They buy the whole building, now ServiceNet, 0 property tax bill. That building was assessed at well over between $1 and $2 million. That's come off the tax rolls. Okay, flash ahead over to Grin and Barrett at Jarvis Avenue, okay? It's wonderful that HCC decides to put a nursing school, love to have it, but that $2 million in value comes off the tax roll. Did Massachusetts write us a check in Leua for that? No. So now we lose all of that tax revenue. The other one that really frosts me too is, God bless them, but the plumbers union.
Yes.
Okay, they open it up a school, and we're up there at the ribbon cutting, and we're saying how wonderful this is, and so they take Sears Auto, which was paying all kinds of taxes. I don't have that number, but it was significant.
It was valued just at about $1 million.
$1 million, okay. So we're up at the ribbon cutting, welcome to Holyoke, this is great. $1 million comes off the tax rolls, and they're now classified as a tax exempt school. Okay, I think I've made my point. Million here, million here, million here, million here, and then there you go, and we say, well, we got 9 million for marijuana. Well, I've just added up 4 million right there. Matter of fact, it's 5 million, because Grin and Barrett was 2 million. And you just keep going with this stuff. It's like we're taking one step ahead, one step back, maybe 2 steps back. We're not getting ahead, folks. And I think what we all need to do and work with our state rep and otherwise is, we've got to begin to advocate for what we're getting in local aid is not anywhere sufficient to the needs of this community, and they keep putting it on the backs of what's remaining for businesses and homeowners is not going to work. And this is only going to keep getting worse because until there's a market correction, and I want to talk about that for a second, but until there's a market correction, the values are going to keep going up 5, 5, 5, 5. This is why some of us who were big time against the tax override, which would have added another 7%, pointed out at the time, we're in an upswing market. This thing is going to keep going up, 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 up. Even forget the tax override. Now, what happens is, if we're not careful and this levy keeps going up, 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 right? Now we're talking 2.5 million. Now, we're going to be dependent on those dollars because you can't go back once you start spending the money. That's why we got to be real careful about increasing the levy, okay? Because once you keep going up, you can't go down because you build these costs into the operations of the government. What's going to happen is there will be a market correction. 2008 is a perfect example. What happens to Holyoke when this thing market corrects 6, 7, 8 years from now? Maybe it's sooner than that. No one knows. If I knew that, I'd be a very, very wealthy person. But if eventually this will market correct and this housing market is going to go way down, which is going to result in a total implosion because all of these numbers we're looking at is entirely based on residential now, okay? It used to be like 50-50. The business sector only makes up now, because of the big drop in the mall, now only makes up like what, 25-30% of the total valuation now?
Right.
Yeah,
It does.
so residential, when that has a market correction, we better be prepared for that. So, which only lends itself more to the argument that Mayor Garcia should be very careful. Yes, we have a cost of living, but if you went up $1.5 million, that's 2.6%. Okay, I think that's a reasonable adjustment. But to go up 2.5 million, again, we got to be real careful on the spending side. The money needs to come from Boston. These ARPA funds, these other things, all part of this. But I'm very, very concerned that this is not a sustainable trajectory.
I think Councilor-elect Jordan missed one because don't forget Dr. Wang was going to save the Pioneer Valley.
Yes.
It's now Bay State's lab.
Yes, sir. Exactly.
Yeah.
It's a good example.
Yeah.
To our assessor, I think we have 2 members of the public that came in late. They might want to speak.
Okay, they can come up and speak. I'm just going to interject one thing real quick. The exempt property did go up in value again this year by 1.2%. It does climb every year.
Yes. Right. Thank you.
You're welcome. And Helene Florio from the Holyoke Taxpayers Association.
Good evening. I'm sorry we're late. We had a board meeting, so got here as soon as we could. I like what I have been hearing, and I just have to say that Kevin, the examples that he has been giving are absolutely correct. One of the things that I would have been pointing out were the businesses that we have lost and gone to non-taxable property. And I think it is a major concern also at having the tax rate for commercial as high as it has been. I think that it has had a negative perception given to the city. It's being first is not where we want to be. Being the highest in the state is not where we want to be. And even if we can get the number down, all the businesses will be paying more anyway because of the increased values. And as a senior citizen, on a fixed income and basically retired, I fully comprehend and understand the need to keep the rates down for the residential also. It's a real tough job, but I hope that we can do it. I hope we don't go as high as we can. It's always better to have a little bit of wiggle room, And I have to say, I have not discussed this with my board, but I have to say personally, I would not be against going for some money from the stabilization to bring it down this year. I think it's this is the year that it could be done, would, and should be done. But thank you all, and sorry that I was late getting here. So
You made it. Thank you.
I did. Thank you.
Anyone else? Mike Sullivan?
Yep. One thing during my 6 years on the council, I harped on almost every year, and I hope the new mayor and the new council going forward next year will take a good, hard look at all the pilot programs that we have out there. We requested it multiple times. Nobody yet still has a handle on all of the pilot programs. Some of them were very poorly negotiated. It's time to look at all these. It would be a significant source of revenue. The one we have with the Green High-Speed Computing Center is an absolute travesty. Last night in the DGNR meeting, we took a look at the largest landlord in Holyoke, which is the Holyoke Housing Authority, which has a pilot program of less than $4,000. And this is also part of a tremendous burden that's being imposed on the residential and commercial tax rate by having all these poorly negotiated pilot programs out there. Thank you.
You're welcome. Hello.
Hi, how are you, everybody? Ganinder Dhaliwal, as a resident in Holyoke and a business owner. Business, because I'm like close to mall, and every business in that surrounding area rental, like I'm renting that where my business is. And when the commercial tax goes up, and we are in triple net, so means they're gonna put the burden on us. That their tax goes up, they put it on us. Our businesses already, since COVID, we are struggling because especially in holiday time, people either going to Springfield, West Springfield area to eat out, or they heading to Northampton. We don't have that kind of, instruction to bring people to Holyoke so that the people can eat in Holyoke. Someday we can be busy, someday we miss and hit, So commercial tax goes up means it's gonna go, my rent's gonna go up. They're gonna be a triple net. So that's how they are gonna be forcing people to leave Holyoke to do business somewhere else. And so before you guys, do something going up, I'd rather see a little decrease this year. First time been in business in like 15 years in Holyoke. So that's all I have to say. Thank you, and thanks for your hard work.
Thank you for coming. Are we all set? Anyone else? No? Okay. Well, I would like to conclude this meeting tonight then and make a move for continuance of the tax classification to Tuesday, December 7th, to be taken up at the City Council meeting. Thank you all for joining us, and thank you to Jeffrey Anderson Burgos to being able to assist us with the meeting tonight so we could have it on Zoom. And if you have any questions, please contact me at the Assessor's office. I'll be happy to provide whatever assistance I can for you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good job. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.